Hi, I'm Rebecca. My husband and I built our business over 10 years ago. When we started it, we didn't even know that we needed a playbook. We didn't understand it. We just trained the people as best we could and hoped that it would kind of click with them. And more often than not, it didn't click. So after years of frustration, I decided to get serious and I dug in, tore everything down to the studs, and then rebuilt it in 30 days. Our mission statement, our core values, our employee handbook, our entire onboarding guide, job descriptions for every position, KPIs, growth plans, training scripts, meeting rhythms, accountability structures, all of it in 30 days. And now that I've figured out exactly how to do that, I help other people do the same with their businesses. This video will show you exactly how I did it, what I built, and how you can build yours too. Every month that you run your business without this infrastructure is another month that you're just managing the business by memory and by gut, by hope. You're costing yourself money through the inefficiency of all of it. And you're costing yourself freedom, the ability to step away from your business, to stop thinking about it along the clock. If you ever want to sell it one day, or if you love it and want to duplicate it and replicate it, you have to have these things in place. But you can do it. And I can show you how to do it in 30. I probably would not recommend that you do it in 30 days unless you just get really sucked into a project like I do. Um, I would recommend you do it in piece by piece and maybe take 6 to 8 or even 6 months to do yours. Here's what our business looked like before any of this. It was running, revenue was coming in, customers were showing up, and by a lot of standards, everything was fine. But my husband and I were exhausted. We were the answer to seemingly every question. Every process lived in our heads. Every exception landed on our desk. Every new hire had to be trained by us personally because there was no real system to do that. Just our way of doing things, communicating however we happened to communicate that week. And when we tried to delegate training to someone else, the new hire would learn everything wrong. So we started to get frustrated with the employees. But honestly, we felt like we needed them more than they needed us, even when they were only doing their job halfway right. Customers would get completely different answers depending on who picked up the phone. Everything just felt situational. There was no script, no standard, just whatever happened to make sense in the moment to whoever happened to be there. But running a business like that is the opposite of freedom. You built this trap and then you're living in it, the trap that you built. So finally I had my aha moment where I just felt like something has to change. I looked at what we had and I looked at what I wanted it to be, and I just could not reconcile the two. The problem was not the business itself, but the problem was the lack of structure that we failed to implement into our own business underneath all of this. We'd been building on sand for years, just hoping that it would survive and hoping that we could out earn the unstructuredness of the business. So I made a decision. I was going to completely rebuild from the inside, not one day when things slow down, because that never happens, but now. I was going to start now, and I was going to give myself 30 days. But first, I had to come to terms with something kind of hard. All the frustrations in our business, they were our fault, my fault. I had been a bad leader. I had not given my team the structure that they needed to succeed. Instead of owning that, I had been hiding behind all sorts of excuses like, oh, it's so hard to find good employees these days, or nobody cares about it like an owner does, or if you want it done right, you just got to do it yourself. And those excuses felt true, but they were really covering up the real problem, which was our bad leadership. So we really had to sit with that and fully accept it. And once I did, once I genuinely took ownership rather than just saying the words, something shifted. Because if the problem starts with me, then the fix starts with me too. I didn't need anyone's permission. I didn't have to wait on some magical manager to come in and transform the business. I just had to put my big girl pants on and do the work. Taking ownership of your business problems is not just about accountability. It's the moment that you realize that you are the solution. Nobody else has to move first. The person who created the problem is the person who can actually fix it. That's you. So the first thing I did is I studied. I went on a quest to learn as much as I possibly could because I knew that I could not build what I didn't understand. And at this point, I didn't even quite know what our business needed. I just knew that it needed something that it didn't currently have. So I started studying, like seriously studying, focused, intentional study, not just scrolling whatever pops up on TikTok, but I focused in and studied, knowing that I could not build something that I don't understand and that I don't know. So I need to learn first what this needs to look like to succeed before I can even attempt to know what path I'm trying to go on. So first I started reading books. Well, actually audiobooks because we're busy, but here's what changed everything. The first one was The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. I don't want to be dramatic, but this book changed my life. It genuinely changed how I view business. It made me realize exactly what our business was missing, and more importantly, why we needed it. So, the core idea in this book is that your business needs to run on systems, not on people, and more specifically, not on you. The shift from working in your business to working on your business. And that framing is the foundation for everything that followed. That was my aha moment. Like, this is exactly what we've been missing this whole time. People had told us in the past that, oh, you need some sort of documented process. So if you get hit by a bus, that someone else could come in, pick up your book, and follow the steps to know how to keep your business going. And I genuinely thought that that was the reason why you needed some sort of documented process, so that if you got hit by a bus, that someone else could help. And in my head, I'm like, well, that doesn't happen very often. Like, does that really need to be my top priority if I get hit by a bus? So this book really shows you why it's so important. It's so much more than just if you get hit by a bus. It is the way to grow your business and take it to levels that you could never have imagined before. The next book was Traction by Gino Wickman. He takes the E-Myth framework and then gives you the tactical steps on how to actually build it out for your business, like the scorecards, the meeting rhythms, the accountability structures, like exactly how to implement the stuff based on the E-Myth. So that kind of showed me what to build and in what order. Then I did Good to Great by Jim Collins, getting the right people in the right seats on your bus and worrying more about the people than the strategy. I also worked through things like how to be a good, great boss, 1 Minute Manager, of course, the Dave Ramsey Entree Leadership podcast. The more I could learn, the more I was just sucking in. So none of what I built is original. None of it's just came from my head. I took everything that I was reading and learning, and I figured out exactly what our business needed and just started building. So step 2 was I had to start building. I had to actually do it. I think it was Thomas Edison that said, vision without execution is just hallucination. Like, yes, you can learn and have all the head knowledge, but if you don't sit down and actually do it and execute it, what's it for? So my next step, I just dug in and started typing. The first thing that I had to work on was the foundational documents. So that's your mission statement, your core values, your organizational chart, who's on the team, what they're in charge of, and how everything connects. But the first part of that is your mission statement and your core values. I always thought that mission statement and core values were like corporate baloney that only huge companies needed. But I learned through all of this that that becomes the foundation for the entire rest of your business. That's the document that tells your team, your coworkers, and your future hires what lane you're in and why you're in it. And it's how you get people on your team to buy into actually what you're trying to build versus just being a staff member unit of production. It tells them what you're doing, who you're doing it for, and why it makes a difference. What's the bigger picture here? So then your core values, I built those out. They needed to be behavioral and specific, the kind that you would genuinely hire and fire someone for. It becomes the operational filter for every situation that your team hires. It becomes a filter that you can run anything through, and the answer's already embedded in your mission statement and your values. So those 2 documents were the first domino that had to fall, and everything else connects back to those. So I spent maybe a day or 2 on each one of those. So I have full videos that will walk you through exactly the frameworks that I use for our mission statement, our core values, and can take you through the entire process so that you could have your core values and your mission statement done by tomorrow. But writing your mission statement and your core values is so important because it forces you to name your operational differentiator. What sets you apart from everyone else? Why should a customer choose you over someone else? And once you name that and name it clearly, and then everything you do is focused around that, that then changes how you market, how you handle your customers, how you present yourself. It changes everything once you know exactly why people are choosing you over someone else. Once the foundation was in place, I had to build every operational layer of the business. I literally would sit on my computer and just type way too late into the night, way too early into the morning on every moment I had that was spare, I was typing on my computer. The second thing to build is your people operations. What does hiring look like? What is onboarding? I spent a lot of time just on our onboarding document. And in our onboarding document, most of it was pulled from our foundational documents. But what are job descriptions for every single description? The real kind that the kind that articulates what excellence looks like in that role and what the expectations are from day one and how that position connects to the whole mission of your entire business. So when someone then is underperforming, a real job description gives you something concrete to point to instead of just, I feel like dot, dot, dot. I created growth tiers for each job type from your new hire to the most senior contributor. And then here's the cool part. Once I had the job descriptions and the growth tiers, there's byproducts of that. Once you sit down and write out one of them, wow, you just take that and that then becomes your training platform because it shows you exactly what a new hire needs to learn before they get to here. And then from there, what they need to learn until they get to here. So you can take that document and just easily rework the content of it to then become your training plan. It like happened really fast after I did that. And then your KPI scorecards, you just look at your job description and the growth tiers, match them together, figure out what excellence looks like, and you have your scorecard. Then the third part was probably the most overwhelming to me. It's the operational systems. Like every step, standards of procedures, scripts, checklists, meeting rhythms, accountability structures, like every recurring task in your business needs to be a documented process. So, what you say when a customer calls, how to handle a pricing question, how to open, how to close, how to manage every situation, how to check someone out, all the things that come up on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly. This was super daunting for me. Trying to document everything alone would have probably taken me years. So, I knew that I couldn't do that. And I was like, I need to get this done. So I went to my best employees in each position and I gave them 1 week. I said, I need you to write out while you're sitting up here, I need you to write up everything that you do, step-by-step process. If you were giving this to a brand new hire, I want them to be able to look at this document and walk through how to check someone out, how to XYZ. So when they handed those back to me, a few things became immediately clear. In some cases, everyone was doing things flat out wrong. So once I had their documents as the starting point, I then went through, refined them, made them exactly how they actually should be, but it saved me a lot of time using their rough draft document and then morphing it instead of just trying to do it all out of my head. So I then changed the substance of the document and then I ran it through AI to refine it and polish it once the meat was already what it needed to be. So then the final step of this whole process was rolling it out without creating chaos with the team. So my first step to implementing it was bringing it into our leadership and our management. I walked them through all of the documents. I had a binder probably this thick of all of our stuff, but I walked them through it, asked for their input. We spent probably 2 or 3 half-day sessions going through all of it, refining it, asking, how does this sound? Should this be this way or a different way? And we just sat there and revised it. I honestly was kind of bracing for some pushback from our management and our leaders, but there was none. It seemed like they were genuinely relieved at the idea of having, for the first time, real structure and real organization in the company. Once I kind of got their buy in, then we went to a full team meeting a few days later and we did a general overview of the playbook, the core values, the mission statement, the new growth plans, the new meeting rhythms, what was changing, why it was changing. And then a week after that, we held department specific meetings where we had sessions where we went deeper into the things that pertain directly to each of those people. And throughout all of this, we were very honest with the team about what we were doing and why. We told them straight up, like, we have not given you what you needed to succeed here, and it's on us. Here's what we're building. We're trying to be more organized for you to make your job easier. Because really, to be a good leader, your job is to give your team the tools that they need to be able to do their job well. That transparency and kind of like taking ownership and responsibility for how unstructured it had been kind of knocks out any potential resistance before people have a chance to be resistant. And then they kind of look at the managers and the leaders and they see that they're bought in and then they get on board too. So after building all of this for our own business, I then started helping other businesses build it too. And what I kept running into was the same situation. Business owners who'd been running their companies for years, doing genuinely excellent work, but still operating without any of this structure underneath it. And they weren't missing it because they didn't care or because they weren't smart or something. They were missing it because no one had ever handed them a simple enough framework of here's exactly how you do it, or walk them through it piece by piece for their own business, or explained it in a real way that connects to them instead of just some sort of textbook case study. So that's what this channel is for. Every video on here is a piece of what I built or something that I learned in my process of learning and restructuring our business, broken down fully with real examples from businesses like my own, how I wrote the mission statement, how I wrote the core values, how I implemented them, how we changed our pricing, how we do time management, delegation, how to look at your business the way an investor would and change things to make it stronger. All of it, one piece at a time. So whether you've been running your business for 1 day or 10 years, if you're doing it without the structure that you need underneath you, or you just want to learn how to make your business better, this channel is where you start. The thing that you're missing could be the structure and the foundational documents. And this is exactly what we're building here. So make sure you subscribe and stick around. If you want to start exactly where I started, watch the mission video next. Follow the process, and by tomorrow, you could have your mission statement and your core values checked off your list. Everything else builds from there. I'll see you in the next one.